Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us back here at Fuel Positive's channel. We have a very special interview for you guys today. We're, of course, sitting here with CEO Ian Clifford, and we have special guest Andre Meck, the new Strategic Carbon Credit and Emissions Reduction Specialist. Now, Andre, that is a mouthful, but Ian, can you kick us off and tell us what you brought Andre on to do and what's going to happen from here?
Sure, Michael. I mean, a big focus for us is understanding a couple of things that are really fundamental to our business. First of all the environmental imperatives and programs as they exist around the world, it's important for us to have real meaningful firsthand knowledge of what initiatives exist and how can we address them as a company. The second piece of the puzzle, which is really important for us, is looking at carbon credits around the world. And it's a complex system. It varies dramatically by jurisdiction. And there aren't a lot of people out there who really have the expertise that Andre brings to Fuel Positive in that regard. And it's again, a very, very important part of our, not only our choices in where we deploy our technology, but also in terms of our economic model as well, to see what programs make the most sense for us to target and embrace going forward. So the combination of those skill sets and the fact that Andre brings a global perspective to the organization is the reason we did approach Andre and are fortunate enough to have him working with us on all of those initiatives.
Wonderful. So, Andre, welcome to the team, first of all. Second off, tell us a bit about yourself. What got you interested in this career path and what brought you to Fuel Positive? What attracted you to them?
So, what started me off was in the change of the millennium around the year 2000. I took a look at what was going on in the global space and what sort of looked to the future. What's going to be big in the future? And it seemed to me that the planet was heating up, that this climate change thing at the time was quite a scary issue. People were getting very, very excited about it. And some were getting excited about it in an aggressive way, and some were getting excited about it in a great new opportunity way. Mm-hmm. And I remember one of my old mentors saying, people get excited about things when there's going to be a big change, and they get aggressive about things when there's going to be a big change, and they don't know where the money's going to go. So they start to take very solid polar positions. Okay, well, this means that there's going to be big money changing hands, and there's going to be lots of opportunity. So I jumped into it and I started studying it and started getting involved in things. And I started to get invited to different courses, different meetings. I was part of the first ISO 14064 training session done in the world. So, and from there it just sort of snowballed and built. And as with any fledgling industry, it boomed and then it crashed and then it picked up again and then went down again, and now it's picking up again. Mm-hmm. And one thing that's happened that's been consistent is the argument about climate change it's not gone away. Yeah. And it's just carried up more momentum. And there's been more interest and more green investment in green. And if you go to any financial institution, they've got a trading desk and they're just involved in green trading and green businesses and green entities and everything. So this is a really good space to be in. And I'm glad to have been working in it for 20 years. What got me excited about Fuel Positive? Wow. Well, one of the things that is very difficult to address is transportation. So it's fairly easy to address some of the industries and change them from a fossil fuel-based industry to a more environmentally friendly industry running on green electricity. You can take a look at steel production, which used to involve a lot of fossil fuels in the past, and now you see a lot of the electric steel furnaces taking over, especially in the Rust Belt. So that's a big transition from fossil to green. very difficult to do with transportation or with the fuel. And this is what is so great about fuel positive. Fuel positive works with ammonia. I don't know if you know, Michael, but some of the initial test aircraft that broke the sound barrier way back in the 50s and 60s ran on ammonia. So ammonia has been used before in transportation. There's been ammonia used in internal combustion engines. Ammonia has been used in rail. So it's very exciting to see Ian and his crew come with a green way of making ammonia, a method of creating ammonia from resources in a financially viable and cost-effective way that is completely carbon neutral. So that's very exciting because ammonia addresses transportation, and that's a very difficult sector to address. And you add to that shipping, you add to that aircraft. Oh wow, what a great opportunity. So when Ian came and asked me to join the team, okay, I did my studies, I did my work, and then it was an absolute pleasure to join the team.
Yeah, it seems like you fit right in, and it's interesting how you had mentioned the climate change and everything, and basically it was a problem, and then it's about finding the solutions, and it really is interesting that Fuel Positive seems to have found one of those, and I did not know that fact about the old airplanes being powered by ammonia, so that's really interesting too. So, Ian, can we kind of shift gears from there and tell me about the study you guys pushed through and you guys worked on, because it's saying you're saying we have enough green energy today to replace fossil fuels for freight transportation and passenger aviation. So tell us about how you guys plan on how we could actually implement that and how you came to that conclusion.
Yeah, no, one of the questions that always comes up when you talk about any technology that's powered by renewables is there capacity, right? Because it's the big question mark. You can have a great technology, but if you don't have the energy source to make it work, then it's not that great. So we decided, based on Andre's experience, to challenge him with a study looking at Canada initially to see if there's enough in the mix of sustainable electricity generation in Canada. Is there enough excess capacity today to do anything interesting? I mean, that was sort of the initial question, because we didn't know exactly what those numbers would look like and what significance they would have. And we were delighted as the work was being done to understand that there is enormous excess capacity that could be utilized to produce carbon-free ammonia, utilizing our systems throughout the country for the purpose of powering transportation requirements and commercial transportation entirely, which is an extraordinary realization. But the neat thing about ammonia and Andre's example related to aircraft is really interesting, because the fact is that there is a lot of experience in terms of converting internal combustion engines to run on pure ammonia. So the knowledge is there, the ability is there. So now it's just, is the will there to do it? And we believe we're really pushing towards a time where carbon-free ammonia will become an essential fossil fuel replacement. And then the opportunities obviously are endless around the world. But Canada is a great starting place. And I'll let Andre talk about some of the findings, but we were again delighted to find that there is this built-in capacity today that means that we can start doing this tomorrow. This isn't 5 years, 10 years out. We're not trying to figure out how to build a hydrogen superhighway. We've got the ability to produce carbon-free ammonia starting early in 2022 that can meet these start to meet these needs.
Interesting. I think it's really cool that you guys went into this study like, all right, let's see what we're working with here. And then it came out that there is this excess of green energy. Andre, are you able to walk us through how you came to this conclusion?
Sure. First of all, I'll say that getting these studies is a little bit anxiety provoking, because you don't know what the answer is. and you sort of dig into it, and you're doing, you're doing the work, and nobody's ever done this work before, so you're inventing it and doing the work, and you're not sure what you're going to find. And it was great to find that, yeah, there is this excess capacity in the grid. And where does the excess capacity come from? Well, here's how the grid works. In the morning, everybody gets up and they all turn on their showers and they start cooking breakfast and start turning on the machines and their computers, etc. And there's a big spike in electricity demand. And then by the time everybody goes to work, that spike, it falls off. So you have to generate all this electricity demand to meet the peak, because that's what everybody needs. And then after that, that demand falls off, and then through the day it climbs again as industry comes online and everybody's using the computers and lights at work, etc. Then it comes up again at the end of the day, but then it falls off again, and it falls off to the bottom. Now all that electricity generating capacity is there, right? The rivers are still running. The wind is still blowing if you're doing that. Okay, all that stuff is still there. And that's what we mean by excess capacity. You don't turn off the hydroelectric dam. You just don't use the electricity, right? Because it's nowhere to use it. So that's all available. And we take that excess capacity and we use that to generate ammonia. So Fuel Positive has got a patented process to generate ammonia, and the demonstration plant is coming up. And with that patented process, that's pretty straightforward. Is there enough of this electricity with Fuel Positive's process, which is very efficient, to generate enough ammonia to feed the needs of transportation? And what this study does is it shows that there is huge potential. It shows that the potential is there. Now we just have to do it. And it presents a very compelling argument for that transition towards the use of ammonia in transportation. And that's what's exciting. There's massive potential, and it presents a compelling argument. So that's that's a very strong message to send out to people, that there are alternatives to fossil fuels, and they're available right now. And it doesn't take a big shift. It takes a shift, of course, and a change. Of course, it's a shift and a change, but it's not a big shift and change. Like Ian said, we don't have to make hydrogen superhighway. We don't have to make something completely new. We've got something that we know has been used and around for about 50, 60 years. So there's a lot of residual knowledge that's already there on how to do this. Now, okay, let's get the plant up and running, and let's do it.
Yeah, you said now you have this strong message. So you got the message now, you got the numbers, you got some findings to back it up. So then, Ian, you had mentioned like this is something that could happen in 2022. What does Fuel Positive have to do now? What's your guys' next goal from here?
Right. Well, that's the critical next step question. So a couple of things. First of all, working with National Compressed Air, we're building our phase 2 demonstration systems. So these are commercial output size systems that are housed in 20 or 40 foot container footprints. They're fully transportable. They're scalable to large commercial output numbers. And those will be ready to go, as I mentioned, early in 2022. Right now, we're working with a number of different stakeholders to define the best application pilot projects for those systems initially. There's a lot of interest in agriculture, mainly because agriculture has been using ammonia for the last 80 years and are very familiar with it as a material. So it's not an unknown or mysterious substance like hydrogen or other materials that they have no experience with. So farmers who use ammonia today are very much an initial target. But the interesting thing about a farm is it's not just fertilizer they need. So a lot of farms have major grain drying operations where they're using propane. Very simple to replace propane with ammonia, number one. And number two, they've got a lot of internal combustion engines in their tractors and their combines and other equipment that could be converted then to run on ammonia that they are producing on their own farm. Like this is the revolutionary part of this, is that the supply chain disappears. So suddenly a farmer who, was so susceptible to the fluctuations in price of fertilizers, the fluctuation in price of fossil fuels, actually now owns their own method of production. Like it is revolutionary. And this is part of the learning process that's going on right now about our systems and what this provides for a farmer. The third thing is ammonia is an amazing refrigerant. So a lot of farms have refrigeration needs that could be met by their own production. So this is why ammonia is a pretty remarkable molecule, because it's not just a fuel. It's not just a fertilizer. It's not just a refrigerant. It's not just a chemical that's used in many, many manufacturing processes. It's all of those things. So this is why it opens up a lot of different avenues. So that's in terms of getting systems ready to go. That's our huge focus now over the coming months leading up to 2022. The other thing that we're doing, we just announced recently that we're working with the Sussex Group, who are a government relations group based in Ottawa and Toronto, because government involvement for this is very, very important, and support, not only from really just from a cheerleading standpoint that this is Canadian technology. We intend to manufacture it here in Canada. That's going to create a lot of jobs and highly skilled jobs, and a lot of jobs in oil and gas could move sideways into our technology, which is a beautiful fit. But the other thing that it does is it just creates global profile for a made in Canada technology that we can then export around the world. So that's the other exciting part of this as well. And that goes back to Andre's work and then looking internationally at markets that make the most sense initially, so that we can start targeting in that regard as well. So a lot going on as we prepare for these systems to be built and deployed. And then, like any technology, it doesn't work until it's out in the field working, right? We can talk about it all we want, but the only thing that is going to really matter is the fact that these systems work as described, are as efficient as designed, and are as easy to integrate as we believe they will be into existing opportunities.
Yeah, just the pure versatility of ammonia you mentioned had no idea that you could use it practically so many different applications. And Andre, I kind of want to finish this off asking you another question. You had mentioned, you had said like there still has to be somewhat of a shift. So I wanted to ask you now, looking at the world, you said you had gotten into this field a while ago. Do you feel like people are ready for this shift now? Talking about governments and culturally, do you feel like people have now turned their attention towards green energy and renewables fully and are ready to go?
Yeah. I have not talked to anybody that has not said, give me some choices. And what we have to do in order to really fully understand this is go back 20, maybe 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you had very little choice for transportation. So you had very little choice. You could go to the fuel pump and between bronze, silver, and gold level gasoline. What we've seen is fossil fuels start to add in ethanol. Mm-hmm. So 10% ethanol. Ethanol is a manufactured fuel. It's carbon neutral. It's green if it's done properly. And that's increasing to 20%. So you're already seeing the shift there at the pump, whether you know it or not. We've seen the shift to electrical vehicles. I don't know what it's like in Ohio, but here in Ontario, the number of electric vehicles in the past 5 years is a visible difference. So there is a shift. People are ready to shift. However, if we shift with electrics, it leaves whole swaths of industry behind. It leaves all the manufacturers of engines. It leaves all the repair stations and all that, the mechanics behind. It leaves all the workers in the oil patch behind. So there is more of an economic incentive, and there's more jobs that would be created through the use of ammonia. Also, governments tend to tax at the gas pump. And I don't know what the tax structure would look like for fully electric world, but I do know that it would look very, very, very similar with ammonia, because you simply add it to the amount of ammonia that gets put in the tank. So I know that there's a much easier shift, very easy shift towards ammonia, much easier than going fully electric. And make there no doubt, there is a big transition going on, and people are interested in transitioning for sure, for sure. I haven't talked to anybody who says no, I'm not interested. No, what they want is a choice, and what Fuel Positive brings is a choice that is less expensive, that doesn't require a big shift, and meets the environmental requirements of where the world is going, and provides economic benefit, intellectual property benefit. I mean, the list of benefits is massive, and that's why it was a pleasure to join Fuel Positive.
Wonderful. Very well said, Andre. Ian, do you have any last words for people before we go? Give them anything to look forward to?
No, I'll let Andre have the last word. That was great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on today. Andre, it was really nice talking to you and getting to meet you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you have any questions for Andre or Ian or anyone else on the Fuel Positive team, let us know. If not, stay tuned. We'll get you some more news as soon as it comes along. Both of you guys, have a wonderful day.
Nice to meet you, Michael.